Home Secretary Priti Patel has said eco-protesters at oil terminals are selfish and dangerous. Their actions led to some petrol stations having to close.
Yeah, climate protesters have certainly had an impact on fuel supplies because some of the forecourts in certain parts of the country have been running low in the south and in parts of the Midlands as well. And going into the Easter holiday period, that's been a worry for some drivers.
Tell you what, I don't know about you, I saw a lot of queues near where I live.
What, for fuel?
For fuel. I mean, I didn't know what was going on.
You might have seen me then. It took me an hour and a half to find a garage yesterday, though I could finally
And this is the scene everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, not so. When I say everywhere, actually, I don't want to cause panic. Actually, there was just a lot of them around where I live. You know, it's sort of. There was 3 oil places that were being protested.
They'd mostly run out of diesel.
Hertfordshire
They'd mostly run out of diesel, which is what I put in my car. Well, listen, we're going to be talking to one of these protesters. She's coming in a bit later on.
She's 20 years old, isn't she? And she's
I mean, what I want to put to them is this. I mean, their slogan is "Just say no to oil." It's so simplistic. I mean, you know, the equation that fine, we need to debate it, we need to talk about it, but just say no is so overly simplistic. It's like almost like a playground taunt.
Yeah.
Surely they can do a little
We've got
better than
millions
that.
of people with Easter weekend coming up.
Absolutely.
Probably worried now about travelling up and down the country to try and see family. The Home Secretary said that they're fanatical and dangerous. And also, good news, though, there may well be a heatwave on its way. I'm saying that term loosely. You don't like us using those sorts of words, do you? The Times on page 3 is using the word heatwave, though, this morning, Laura.
Well, we actually have a new definition of heatwave, which we haven't got time for this morning, so it won't be. But temperatures will be... Just saying, I have a whole spreadsheet and a PowerPoint presentation for later. I don't know. Temperatures will be up to about 21 degrees by the end of the week.
Brace yourselves. Motorists are being warned that this weekend's Easter getaway will be the busiest on the UK's road in at least 8 years. It comes as Priti Patel last night condemned what she termed selfish eco-zealots for inflicting fuel shortages on motorists. Our correspondent Nick Dixon is at a petrol station in Dover for us this morning. Nick, it seems that there's like a perfect storm of circumstances trying to scupper our great getaway.
Unfortunately so, Pip. Morning to you. We've got a situation where, we've got lower fuel supplies in some parts of the country, but also generally more drivers out and about as well going into the Easter holidays. So, no, it's not ideal. The climate protesters are certainly having an impact. They've been disrupting fuel deliveries in some parts of the country, not everywhere, and it's important to stress that, but certainly having an impact in parts of the south and areas in the Midlands as well. Driving through Kent and Sussex yesterday, I could see many petrol stations struggling with supplies of petrol and diesel at times. They have no diesel here this morning. Long queues as well yesterday afternoon here, going right out onto the A2, the dual carriageway there, and drivers really getting very frustrated at times.
I've got to go to work tomorrow. So how are we going to get to work if we ain't got no fuel? People panic buying, isn't it?
This is our second try. We went to Tesco's earlier and couldn't get any near the place. So
it's just horrendous. It is horrendous.
I mean, I'm a local delivery driver and we're struggling to get fuel in Folkestone.
Some are saying it's owing to the war with the Russians, but it's not. Nothing to do with it.
So some drivers getting concerned because many people do, of course, want to fill up for the Easter holidays ahead. Record numbers, it seems, will be travelling. 21.5 million journeys planned between Good Friday and Easter Monday. As far as the ferries are concerned, the lorries and the cars are moving at a much quicker rate this morning, and they have been yesterday as well, going into the ferry port at Dover, which is good news. But P&O ferries have warned that it'll be at least Good Friday before they start to resume services.
The sooner that P&O can get those ferries back, the better it will be, because in effect you've got sort of probably about 20 ferry trips a day we're losing, 4 ferries running 5 trips a day, and so that's a huge capacity. That's a large number of HGVs that could be carried.
Just going back to the petrol situation briefly, Pip, before I hand back to you, talking to staff at quite a few of the stations in this area, what they're saying is, look, please don't panic about this. It's going to resolve itself in the next 24 hours or so. And again, stressing not to panic buy.
Nick, thank you very much. Talk to you later.
Eco-activists or eco-zealots, they're certainly causing disruption, highlighting the climate crisis, but is blocking bridges and blocking fuel depots causing more harm than good? We'll be talking with one of the protesters live in the studio later. I'm asking about that slogan, just stop oil. Isn't that just a wee bit simplistic?
As you've been hearing, climate change protesters say they're planning to cause disruption in London every day this week. Some petrol stations in Essex have been forced to turn away motorists after activists blocked access to oil depots. Over the weekend, campaigners also shut down Oxford Street, Vauxhall Bridge and Lambeth Bridge.
Mr. Reid, what's your position on this just stop oil protesters? I mean, many people, and I would include myself in this number, are gobsmacked that these protesters, fine, they make their protest, but then they can't be moved on, maybe arrested under the obstruction laws. How is it that the police seem to be powerless to lift these blockades?
Well, I mean, this is similar to the protests we had when people were lying down on motorways to stop vehicles moving around as well. I think people need the right to protest and make their voices heard, but there should be limits to the amount of disruption that they can make, particularly if they're stopping people going around their daily business. So I do think we need to look at that.
Well, Priti Patel has said this morning that she partly blames Labour for this because Labour blocked an attempt to strengthen the laws to do the kind of thing that we're talking about, to allow protesters to protest, but to prevent them from blockading very important outlets. And she blames Labour for that. But don't we have existing laws to handle this? I mentioned the law of obstruction. Surely, I mean, if I were to stand in the road and block traffic, I would expect to be arrested.
You know, I wish Priti Patel would just stop whinging and get on with her job. This government's been in power for 12 years now. They've got an 80-seat majority in the House of Commons. They can get through whatever they like. It's just covering up her own failure to act, like she's failed to act on so many other issues. This is a Home Secretary, I'm afraid, isn't getting on and doing her job. She needs to come forward with positive proposals, talk to Labour about it, and we're happy to discuss that with her. We believe in the right to protest. We do not believe in that people should be able to cause disruption to other citizens who are going about their daily business.
So if you were Home Secretary this morning, what would you be saying to the police?
Well, I'd be talking to the police about what powers they currently have and what further powers they might need to deal with that. There ought to be, I mean, as you were saying, existing laws that prevent unreasonable disruption, and I'd be surprised if those don't exist. So we would talk to them about what they perceive the problem to be. We're
going to come back to you in a second because there's something very important you want to talk about. But what do you think, guys, about this?
Well, I think the police should just arrest them. Yeah, just do it. They've been entitled to have their protest, but I don't think they should have any right to stop people getting to work, to stop people getting to hospitals.
But they do have those rights, don't they, at the moment?
Yeah, and I think it should only go so far, and then they should be stopped because
it was rejected in the House of Lords, wasn't it? Yeah. This bill.
Yeah, that's where it went wrong.
Yeah, but Steve Reid is right that they have been in power, the Conservatives, for 12 years, and Priti Patel, pretty hopeless, is in a government with an 80-seat majority. So to blame other people, I think, is utterly ludicrous. But look, there's a difficult balancing act in a democracy between the right to protest and the right for people
we'll be talking to one of these protesters.
Carry on their lives.
She's coming in later. What would you ask her?
Well, I'd ask her how she got here today.
Yeah.
To get in a car.
That would be unfair. We've made her get a car in because she doesn't know London very well. Right.
I hope it was an electric car.
The programme has a duty of care to get her invited.
Was it an electric car?
I don't know the details.
Yeah. Only that.
Anyway,
I thought she'd have wanted to get in a fuel-guzzling car.
But after that, I would say, look, do you have any concern about disrupting people's lives? But saving the planet and the climate is a noble cause. And I think I've no doubt her heart's in the right place. I just wonder about her head, because some of these protests are counterproductive. They are. And you've got a huge battle ahead with a cost of living crisis to keep people on side for net zero targets, weaning ourselves off carbon, going on to cleaner, greener, more sustainable fuels. And I think these just stop oil and insulate Britain are counterproductive. They do not help. I know that from other people in the environmental movement.
You've got to take people with you in these arguments, and I think they just damage their cause enormously.
Well, we are going with... I mean, we are no more diesel cars after 2030.
Yep.
We are...
Pretty ambitious
I think
targets.
Renewables, in terms of UK electricity supply, outstripped fossil fuels in 2020.
Most people's fuel bills, and gas and electric bills, about 25% of that is green taxes. And do we want to pay any more?
Yeah. OK. Home Secretary Priti Patel has said eco-protesters at the oil terminals are selfish and dangerous. Their actions led to some petrol stations having to close.
Yes, climate protesters have had an impact on deliveries in some parts of the country, certainly in the south and areas of the Midlands as well, and fuel supplies still in shortages in some parts of the country, certainly at this forecourt here this morning, which is a concern for drivers going into the holiday period.
Brace yourselves, because motorists are being warned that this weekend's Easter getaway will be the busiest on the UK's roads in at least 8 years. It comes as Priti Patel last night condemned what she termed selfish eco-zealots for inflicting fuel shortages on drivers.
Yes, 21.5 million leisure trips planned later this week between Good Friday and Easter Monday on the road. So some drivers, understandably, a little concerned about these reports of fuel shortages in some parts of the country, certainly in the south and areas in the Midlands as well. The climate protesters have certainly been impacting on deliveries to forecourts, and there are fuel shortages at some petrol stations still this morning.
Hello, I'm Sally Bidoff. As you've been hearing, climate change protesters say they're planning to cause disruption in London every day this week. Some petrol stations in Essex have had to close pumps after activists affected supplies by blocking oil depots. Over the weekend, campaigners also shut down Oxford Street, Vauxhall Bridge and Lambeth Bridge.